Hey guys, Yips here, coming at you with another video, and today I want to talk about progressing your ED character into the endgame from level 1. In the last video that I made, a lot of people were confused on how to get this character up and running, sort of the gearing options that I had selected, why I had them selected, how to get everything working and online. So in this video, I'm going to cover what you should be doing from level 1 to the maps, mid-game, end-game, how I'm getting my character to that end-game goals, and what sort of things you'll be looking for as you progress through the game. I'm going to be doing it from a solo self-found perspective. If you're on Trade League, you'll just be able to do what I'm saying here faster and potentially get better options. So really quickly, very briefly, I want to go through the leveling tree and the concepts of the leveling tree. Afterwards, we'll talk about that gearing process and go a little bit in depth on how you want to manage your character. So leveling, very quickly, let's just blast through it. There's tons of stuff out here if you want to learn how to level as these particular builds. So first, we're going to be using Stormblast Mine, Orb of Storms leveling, very standard, very straightforward, pathing into Lightning Walker first, then just going in a straight beeline over to Sovereignty. This is going to allow us to switch into later our Spell Slinger leveling Chaos setup. Picking Sovereignty and Reservation Mastery, grabbing these Purity of Flesh nodes, and then going up and pathing to Heart of Darkness. This is where we are going to swap over to our Spell Slinger setup. So you can see here from 1 to 33, these are the skills and the auras that you will be using along with the support links. From 33 to maps, we'll be using a Spell Slinger setup. The most important one to have on your 4-link is going to be the Soul Rend, LMP, and Void Manipulation one. Afterwards, focus on Blight as your second 4-link. We're using Steel Skin, Flame Dash, Faster Casting, Frenzy, Hex Touch, and Despair. This is what we'll be using to maps. Onward, it's just going to be the endgame POB tree that I linked earlier. So if you want to go here and check out those abilities that I'm using in that, that is going to be what we're using from maps onward once we're doing the self-cast. So, like I said, we're here, level 35, we're switching to our Spell Slinger setup. From 35 to 60, we are just going to go and path to our next aura nodes. This is going to make it so we're able to more easily reserve more things like Malevolence, Clarity, Vitality if you need more defense, more mana regen. Picking up our Influence here, picking up Charisma down here, pathing through, and just picking up the life clusters along the way. Very simple, pathing to our first reservation node, getting our Heart of Darkness for a little bit of damage, and then pathing down, getting the Life Notable, and then going about getting our next aura nodes. Once you've gotten those aura nodes online, you're going to be noticing that you have a lot of mana. Look to reserve more auras or switch into the full setup once you have this done. If you feel like you need more damage from your tree while you're doing this and leveling, and you don't feel like it's enough, there are options for you to pick on the tree that are nearby. Those options will be Acrimony for more damage over time multiplier, and Growth and Decay for, again, more damage over time multiplier. We also have Atrophy over here for increased chaos damage, so there are options if you feel like you want higher DPS as you're pathing through to level 60. From level 60 to 80 and 80 to 90, we are just picking up notables around these aura clusters. Very simply, my goal from level 60 to level 80 and 80 to 90 is going to be picking up things like Atrophy, Arcane Sanctuary, switching from Heart of Darkness over to Corruption, grabbing the Divine Shield down here for recovery, and then as we go further, just getting more block, getting more armor, getting more damage. And you can kind of pick and choose which way you want to path around these aura notables. It's not too important what order you go. Damage or defense, this build should be fine on both fronts. Whatever you feel like you need, grab the clusters that I have listed. Again, everything revolves around these aura notables. And then finally, we have the level 95 tree here if you want to look at it. Going to level 100, again, will be that final POB that I linked. If you want to switch some stuff up for jewels and you know what you're doing, feel free to do that. So that's going to be the leveling tree. This is what we're going to be using for our abilities here, and this is our progression in terms of our ascendancy. If you're looking again for the end skill links, check out this POB, it has it all listed there. The main focus of the video and what I really want to talk about is progressing your character through maps to the end game and what sort of gearing options you're looking at while you move through the game. And this is probably the hardest part and the most important part for a lot of people as you're progressing from 60 to 80, 80 to 90, 90 to 100. So hopefully at the end of this video, you'll get a better idea of what you're looking for as you level your character. If you're coming into the league late, a week late, a few days late, I cannot emphasize this enough, the number one increase to your character is going to be item level on your gems. So if you hit level 70 and you feel like you don't have enough damage, buy the highest level damage gem that you can use for Blight, for ED, for Contagion. You can see here, a Blight of level 12 is dealing like 1/4 of the damage of a level 20 Blight. If you're able to get that level 20 Blight, you've just multiplied your damage times 4 on a 4 link. Like, come on. It's great. Gem levels, important if you can buy them. If not, if you're league starting like me on day 1 or playing solo self-found, you will not have access to level 20 gems. That is totally okay. This is how you're going to be looking to gear your character as you move forward. So from 70 to 80 and 80 plus, this is the starting phase of your character. You're starting to get your defenses online, you're starting to get your character geared, you're starting to give life, you're starting to get ES, you're starting to get better weapons. And what you're looking for from level 80 plus is getting res capped from your gear, 4 to 5k life, 2 to 3k ES, plus 1 chaos spell damage cast speed dot multi-wand. 2 of those 4 modifiers will do. And then start looking for the correct armor type bases. The reason I say this is you're going to be running into things like Harvest when you're leveling. And what you want to be doing in Harvest is any sort of defense modifier, any sort of chaos modifier, any sort of life modifier. You want to throw in those armor bases that you need for the tree. Armor and ES is what you want to be looking for. And crafting those defense, crafting those life on those, and getting chances at getting upgrades for your gear. That's where it's really going to come from, also just from the ground. And for your wands, you just want to throw them in the chaos ones. Just keep slamming them and hopefully you get better results. Now, save your fossils for later. They're going to be important in the end game. Don't use them at this stage. You'll be using them later to craft things like +2 wands, crafting better gear, rolling specific items, and target farming specific gear. It's much more efficient to use those stored materials on target farming and banking them up, because as you progress through leveling, if you use those fossils early, you might find a piece of gear that will replace that fossil crafting later, and it's basically wasted currency. So when you're leveling 80 plus, you're looking to get res capped, 4 to 5k HP, 2 to 3k ES, a wand with 2 of 4 of these modifiers, and start looking for the correct armor type bases for harvest crafting. And what I did to give you guys an idea of what this will look like for a typical character is I've imported my level 82 solo self-found character that's just found all of this gear by itself. It's a necromancer, and I've just imported it and slotted it into this build, and I will show you guys what that looks like. So none of the armor types are what they should be. None of the gear is rolled in a way that I would have done for this build, and you can already see how powerful it will be for a build like this just on a 4-link. The only thing that I've changed is I have a spell damage chaos spell skills wand. That's all I slotted in differently because it is quite important for a build like this. So what are we using? We have an armor shield here with elemental resistances and life and percent armor. We have a helmet that is an armor energy shield base with mana, life, and resistances. We have a chest with mana, life, resistances, and energy shield. Gloves with life, mana, and resistances. We have more life, more resistances, movement speed. You guys get the idea. Life, resistances, mana. And that was what I was going for on this build because it was a mind over matter build, so I was crafting a lot of mana on my gear, and you can see that here. With this particular build, the one that I'm running, I would actually change that mana craft to energy shield, and I would be looking for energy shield and life rather than just mana and life, because I didn't care too much about ES on that character that I was playing before. So this is what I was looking for. This is a level 82 character being imported. This is going to be the level 80 to 90 skill tree, and you can see 4.6k life, 2k ES. This ES value will be a lot higher. The mana value will be a lot lower because this character focused on getting a lot of mana for that mind over matter, whereas you will be focusing on getting more energy shield than life. So you can expect to have maybe 3 to 3.5k ES instead of just this 2k value here. You see the armor value is extremely high for a character like this, and that's because we are running that determination, defiance banner, and discipline, and this armor value is going to be even higher because we are going to have additional armor from that new determination. So the way that I can sort of emulate that here is if I go into the configuration and I type plus 2000 armor, you can see that value go up a lot. And that's going to be from that level 20 determination that I was talking about earlier. So That's what you want to focus on. Going from level 80 to 90 is getting these things up and running. And that's for solo self-found. If you're playing on softcore trade or on hardcore trade, you'll be able to progress this a lot faster and move towards that 90 plus a lot sooner. So that's my goal for level 80 plus. Focus on res cap, getting 4 to 5k life, 2 to 3k ES, a decent wand, and looking for correct armor type bases. And this is similar to what my character stats will be. At level 90 plus, I'll be considering anoints for my neck. I'll be thinking, okay, what can I get that will be cheap, that will be a good damage increase? Something like Atrophy with Sepia Opalescent might be a bit expensive for me, so I might look at getting something like Acrimony, Black, Clear, a little bit cheaper. Something like Heart of Darkness. Anything that would give me increased damage, or if I want survivability, getting something like Discipline and Training, getting something like Quick Recovery. Probably not Quick Recovery because it requires Golden, but you get the idea. Just looking for something useful on your tree to give you more damage or give you more survivability. You can anoint that onto your neck early on. Very, very good to do once you're 90 plus is considered good annoyance. At level 80, you should have an anoint. It probably just won't be a good one. Chaos resistance, very important once you're 90 plus, especially if you're a hardcore character, or in this case a softcore character too. It gives you a lot of damage when you pick up this node and you have chaos res capped. So it won't be too hard to do because we're running Withering Presence, but once you get to level 90, the gear gets better and better, and you're going to be able to slot in chaos resistance instead of other things. So keep that in mind as you're leveling to 90, looking for chaos resistances. Looking for plus 10 life as ES chests, so we're looking for that craft through the Syndicate. I think it's Gravicius that drops the chests that give you this, so slotting him early on and trying to look for this on solo self-found will be very important. I would double check that you make sure you get the right Syndicate guy on that drops this. I'm not 100% sure that it's him, but I think that it is. You're looking for influence shields and amulets. You're starting into those red maps. You're looking for Shaper, Warlord shields, Hunter amulets, things that you can change with Harvest in order to get those end games gear. And then finally, you're looking for high eye level correct armor type bases. You're looking for energy, shield armor bases, apothecary gloves, big one. Also, I think two-tone boots are ones that you can look for as well. And you're going to be looking to use those as your end game gear. Harvest crafting those to have percent armor, life, and energy shield on them are going to be great. Also looking for things like vermilion rings. Hard to get, but crystal belt, again hard to get, and you're looking at this point to have a 6 link. Preferably at 80 you get that 5 link through harvest, and 90 plus to 95 you're looking to end up getting that 6 link. Once you're 95 plus, you're looking at influence net crafting, consider spell suppression, multi-modded wand, and Seer's helmet, the Crown of Eyes or whatever it's called, in order to get the Transfiguration of Soul notable, as well as it just being a great base helmet for this build, and that's how you're going to progress your character in the endgame. Like I said, this was just a character that I had from solo self-found hardcore last league that I just imported and put on this build, and you can see early on in white tier maps, because that's where this character was, he was in tier 4, tier 5 maps, you're going to have plenty of single target damage, like you're going to be fine on a 4 link, okay? You're going to be okay with this build with a low gear investment. All of your damage comes from gem levels. So hopefully this gave you an idea on how you're going to be progressing your character into the endgame, the sort of things that you'll be looking for. I'll link this POB with all the leveling information, all the gems, and this character specific gear. This character, if you want my profile, I'm just Yippa. This character's map got its sex. I just imported the items and skills, and this is what came out except for the wand. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully it gives you an idea on how this character will function early on in the league. I mean, come on, having 21k armor in white maps, like, you are gonna be a god. Alright, thanks for chilling, thanks for watching. I hope you all have a lovely day, and I will be posting build updates as I play through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on how the build is going for me and what my character has and the progression it's going for, so you can compare with yours if you're running the same build. Okay, that's the end of that part. Now, I want to spend a little time talking about some other aspects of the build. This is not so much related to anything guide-oriented. I just wanted to highlight some cool things that I noticed about things like Divine Shield, things about other aspects of the build that I just kind of find interesting and want to talk with about and just sort of get some ideas out there. So Divine Shield is a really cool notable, and the reason I like it so much is because it scales so well with armor. The more armor that you can get, the more DR Divine Shield is going to apply to you. And by DR, it's not really damage reduction, it's recovery in the form of damage reduction, but if you're recovering more damage than you take, you can consider it DR. So if you only have 50% DR to a Fizz hit, Divine Shield isn't doing very much for you. If you have 75% DR on a physical hit, Divine Shield is going to be doing an insane amount more, and I just want to show you guys quickly why that is. So assuming it functions the way that I think it will, similar to the Juggernaut Ascendancy, let's see if we can get on paint here really quick. Let's just say for science sake, you're taking a hit of 1,000 in all of these scenarios, and in case 1 you're reducing it by 50%, case 2 you're reducing it by 75%, and case 3 you're reducing it by 90%. Let's just focus on how much DR Divine Shield is going to be giving you if you're taking this 1,000 each second for 4 seconds. So you're just taking 1,000 damage 1 second, 1,000 damage 2 seconds, 1,000 damage 3 seconds, 1,000 damage 4 seconds, and that just keeps repeating, and you're reducing it by these amounts. So if you reduce that 1,000 damage by 50%, that means you're going to be taking a hit of 5,000, and you're preventing 5,000. Or sorry, 500. We're using 1,000 here. And so if you're preventing a hit for 500 and you're taking a hit for 500, that means that that prevented amount, this 500, is going to be recovered as energy shield over 4 seconds. So 500 times 0.03 is going to give us 15. That's correct. So 15 energy shield per second. And we're going to be getting 4 seconds of this. That means we're going to be getting a grand total, it's not very much, I know, but of 60 ES per second. Okay, so after those 4 seconds, we're getting 60 ES per second because we're taking that 1,000 every second. So a total of 4,000 over 4 seconds, we divide that by 50% because that's the damage we've taken, and we're regenerating at the end of that 60 ES per second. This is how I believe it will work. So, of this 500 hit, we're mitigating about 10%. Okay, so keep that in mind. We're mitigating about 10%. If you didn't follow any of this, the idea here stands, we're mitigating about 10% because 60 of 500 is about 10%. Now let's move on to the case where we mitigate 75% of that 1,000. We'll be hit for 250. We will be preventing 750. And of that prevented, we will be regenerating 750 times 0.03, which is 22.5. And we're going to times that by 4 for those 4 seconds. So over the last 4 seconds, we would have taken 250 times 4, which is 1,000 damage, and then the math works out to like this. It would be 90 ES per second. Now that's not a lot more ES per second than 60, but proportional to the damage taken, it's a crazy amount more, right? 90 over 250, sorry, is 36% damage reduction. We've just gone from mitigating 10% to 36% by adding a 25% DR. And if we go to 90%, the math becomes very easy. We take a hit of 100, and then we mitigate 900. We regenerate 3% of 900 is 27 times 4 is going to be 108 ES per second after those 4 seconds. And you can see that we're actually mitigating over 100% of the damage taken. Look at that. 50% reduction to 70% to 90% gives you an it scales so well with mitigating physical hits. And what you should take from this is that Divine Shield is really only going to be effective if you have a lot of armor, if you have endurance charges, if you have physical mitigation on your gear. If you don't have these things, then it's not going to be doing very much for you. Now, what's the point of having this recovery, because it's not really going to save you against a bunch of big hits that you're not mitigating very well, right? Like, it's not going to save you if you're taking 20,000 physical damage, 20,000 physical damage, 20,000 physical damage. It's not going to save you. The purpose of it is to make sure that you're at full HP from all the small hits, so when the big ones do come in, you're not on low HP. That's often the way that characters die, is you get whittled down by small hits and then a big one comes in and finish you. Whereas if you have the recovery for the smaller ones, you're able to have a higher max HP for when that large hit comes in. And that's the purpose of our Divine Shield in this build, is to really just mitigate against that small damage that is coming in through that additional energy shield regen on those physical hits. So just a really brief talk about the power of what I believe Divine Shield will do. If you don't really understand the calculations that were happening here, perhaps I'll go over it a little bit more in depth in a later video on how I believe it to work. If it doesn't work like this, then this is kind of useless. It still scales very well with more armor. Like, the idea, it still does scale very well with more armor. It just won't be quite like this. So just like a little bit of a chat about Divine Shields, because I find it an interesting notable, and I like the fact that it scales really well with armor compared to where Ghost Shrouds just gives you a flat amount of energy shield. Basically, Divine Shield, recovery yes if you're an armor build, Ghost Shrouds, recovery yes if you're an evasion character. Ghost Shrouds are very powerful, and if you're running a spell suppression variant of this build, you can pick up Ghost Shrouds, and if you're running Grace, you drop a few things to drop your EHP, but you get some evasion base and you get Ghost Dance, which is okay. It's just flat recovery, right? So anyways, hope this video was helpful for you guys. This was just a little bit of a ramble at the end, and I will see you guys next time.